All right, it is the top of the hour, and we're going here live. And currently, right now, I have our guest on here for tonight. Welcome to Mark Your Trade Show. And we have this is for you parents out there, for those who ever had questions with books, for those who want to have a better knowledge in how books can help you and why they're so beneficial. And I have a special guest with us tonight, Mr. and author Andrae Smith Jr. And I'm going to be asking Andrae. Andrae is a great guy. So honored to have him on the show for tonight. And he was going to be sharing his infinitely wealth knowledge of being an author, a multi-author, by the way, and just how he got there and, why you should probably start one as well. But I'll go ahead and I'm going to ask Andrae a couple of questions here. We said originally in the live for tonight. I'll let people trickle in. I'll probably get back to the comments a little bit later. So if you're watching this live, go ahead and hashtag live. And if you're watching on the replay, put hashtag replay. But to continue on, right now I'm going to ask Andrae a couple different questions. And Andrae, again, thank you for being on here tonight, brother.
No, thank you for having me, and thank you for all of the accolades and wonderful, wonderful introductions. You flatter me. You flatter me, really and truly. Hopefully, I can be of good value and service to you and your audience here tonight.
I know you will, brother. I know you will. We're not the same. You just gotta, you gotta do me too. Haircut, same haircut.
I'll tell you, 2019 and into 2020, actually, I was nice and low like that. I kept it super low for a minute, and everyone was like, "Why did you do that?" I'm like, "I'm going through some changes." They're like, "I hope it's not a mental crisis." Like, no, I'm just changing. All is well. But now that I've grown it back out a little bit, I'm like, let me go ahead and be proud. Let me be proud.
Nice. It's like my hair's back now, so that means it's not as stressed out like me. No, I'm kidding.
Well, my hairline's a little bit further back than it used to be, but that's neither here nor there.
That's always fun. Well, at least you got a hairline, right?
Yes, I am grateful for that. I'm not complaining. And honestly, even if I were to lose all my hair, I can't complain. That's part of why I'm like, let me see, would I be okay if I lost all my hair? But no, what I actually was going through was it was a temporary shift, and I was being a little bit more of a monk in my lifestyle. So a minimalist in a lot of ways. I put pretty much all of my possessions that I kept. I sold and donated a whole bunch of stuff that year as we moved around. And everything I kept, I kind of pushed off to the side. And at the time, I was kind of just hanging out on an air mattress with a basic blanket and like a clock on the wall, and that's it.
Oh wow.
Jeans and t-shirt. And I was like, I'm not doing anything extra until I find out, who am I inside? So I found it.
You found your monkhood.
I found my mojo again.
That's awesome. So, Andrae, what are you having here? Can you tell us your background, how you first gravitated to what you're doing currently right now?
Absolutely. So my journey begins as a young child. To keep it brief, I did not like reading when I was really, really young because I always thought I was really bad at it. I didn't do so well with the oral exams in school. I was a slow reader. Um, Surprising now, people would think, what? Slow reader, him? He's such a good speaker. But the thing is, I was incredibly, incredibly shy. And when it came time to take the reading exams, I would stutter and I would have to reread things. And what I realize now, though, is that sometimes my mind was reading faster than my eyes and mouth could really kind of coordinate. And that still happens every now and again. But anyway, back then I thought I was bad. It wasn't until about third grade or so that I started developing a love of reading. I ended up getting a book called The Castle in the Attic. And it was just a fantastic little story about this boy who finds a castle in his grandpa's attic and a little lead soldier. And he gets sucked into this world trying to help the knight. And I enjoyed it. And my one of my teachers realized that I actually enjoyed reading and had a sixth grade reading level at like third grade. And I just consumed as much as possible that she started giving me. That transformed into a level of writing that carried me all the way through high school and into college, where I started to learn more about real writing in fiction and nonfiction outside of academia. And as I got better in that realm, I started mentoring people more. I was always a writing tutor through high school and middle school because I had skill because I read so much. I was writing at higher levels. But once I really broke through from the academic writing and had to relearn a new system of writing, a new way of thinking, I really flipped into mentoring people because they were asking questions that I had answers to. And once I got to college, I'm like, I think I want to be an editor maybe. So I took as many editing classes as I could and writing classes. And that just kind of turned into a springboard or really a seed. I shouldn't say springboard because it still took me like 6 more years, 7 more. Oh my God, like 7 more years. How did that happen?
We keep flying by, right?
Yeah. It took me all the way up until 2019 before I decided to make a full-time commitment with editing and writing. And then another year before I finally published my own book. And now here we are another year later. I'm doing it all on my own now.
That's awesome, and I know you've impacted a lot of lives too, writing books, and so thank God you found that what you enjoy doing for sure. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience during the pandemic? Because as we know, through last year, soon to be 2 years behind, I guess technically, since we're going to 2022. But what can you tell us the experience you had writing during the pandemic and how it affected you doing it, probably transitioning from possibly reading books as opposed to doing them on like a Kindle and stuff like that, and has that affected you a bunch during the pandemic?
Oh, well, honestly, the interesting thing about the book industry is that there are a lot of changes happening right now. And the pandemic has really kind of heightened them. So one of the changes that's happening is a rise in self-publishing. There are many more self-published authors than there used to be because the technology allows for people to kind of bypass the traditional gatekeepers that were agents, editors, and publishing houses. They can put their own stuff out now for better or for worse. That being said, with this rise in self-publishers, there's also been a lot of new content coming out in different ways, both digitally and in print. What the pandemic has done has created a higher demand for some of the stuff as well. So for me, my personal experience through the pandemic, at the time I was still working at a different publishing company, and I was working with several authors. And one of the big things that was happening early on in 2020 were conversations around race and racial justice due to, Ahmaud Arbery. And then shortly thereafter, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Elijah McClain. And all these names are making the news once again. And I found myself, when I wasn't working with authors, having conversations on social media. I know I should have just went and got off, but something just kept me hooked into it. And finally, one day I was like, I'm going to go ahead and stop wasting time and energy on these people and put this energy somewhere productive. And so, writing through the pandemic, in some ways, it opened a lot of space because there was nothing else to do but either work or be at home and do it. And this is true for a lot of people. Now, they didn't have the same levels of work or the same type of work, so they chose to write. For me, it was really kind of another day in the life almost.
That's awesome. So so the pandemic kind of really opened things up for you as opposed to shut it off. It just blew things up. So when people were going for the traditional ways, it really exploded, because I've been hearing both ways that some people, some authors, they're less discouraged because now they can't go out to their free thinking space to, do it when they're just stuck at home. So that's
That's very true. There are those on that side who love writing at coffee shops or at the park or in other places that they were barred from going to. Um, I find though that I tend to surround myself with people who are hyper encouraged and resilient. And so, at least within my sphere, most of us kind of kept writing and kept moving forward. And I ended up finding people who previously weren't writing who were like, well, I'm not going to work and the kids aren't going to and from school and they're just fine here. I guess I'll use this time and finally get this book done.
That's awesome. It's like a lot of people are doing that too because they're discovering what they should be doing. Is for the future of book writing, where do you see that going? Do you see more staying online? Do you see more authors coming out or book writers? And why should they start now?
Honestly, it's really hard to predict where the book industry is going from my point of view. I mean, I could say that the trend of self-published authors is only going to continue and that traditional publishers are going to continue to struggle. However, there's also an element that some people may not fully expect, which is that some of these self-published books and self-published authors aren't actually very good. And as a publisher official, it pains me to say it. It really does, but that's the editor in me as well. You know, some of them just aren't that good, and it comes from authors who had no training in writing, who did not invest in editors or accept critique well. And I'm of the philosophy that everyone has a story to tell and that anyone can write a good book if given the tools, resources, and support. There are some authors who don't know what they're doing, and there's no one there who shows them. Or when some people show up, it's with so much of the wrong energy. If you hang around a lot of writers, there'll be so much pretentious attitudes sometimes. They'll say, oh, where did you go to school? Oh, this is no good. You should give up on writing altogether. And I'm super inspired by the fact that some of these new authors choose not to listen to that and choose to put their books out anyway. But what's happened is that you have some books that are below publishing standard. And what that does, unfortunately, is for the readers, it creates a distrust. There was already a distrust in self-published authors to begin with, but now there's a possibility that's going to swing back the other way and say, there's all this content out there that I was wishing I could see, but it's actually not very good. I wish some of these authors would hire editors. I'm going to go back to reading things by traditional publishers. But of course, that's just a possibility. It could very well be like, oh yeah, I love these new stories and I love how the authors make mistakes. It makes me feel like I can do it too. So here it is. And I would just say, it's hard to predict what the publishing industry is going to look like a year or two from now, even pandemic or no pandemic.
If an author, because you had talked about it, authors that typically don't know, if you're, let's say you're panel like myself and I want to write a book to my kids, but I have zero idea where to start, but I also want to be a self-published author, what's 3 tips you could give to me of where I could start with that?
Got it. Well, tip number 1, figure out who you want to write it to and what you want to write. If you using these parameters, you've decided that you want to write a book to and for your kids. Perfect. So number 1, lean into that. Number 2, what I would recommend you do if you've never written anything before, I would absolutely recommend that you plan out the story that you want to tell. Just get it onto paper. Don't start writing. Just dive into or lean into the planning phase. Who are your characters? What do you want them to do? What themes might you explore? Depending on the age range, a children's book might be super simple, or it might be a children's novel. Think about like Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Arguably, it's a children's novel, or even The Graveyard Book is another great one. He's one of my favorite authors. I always reference him. Anyway, he He's telling essentially children's stories. If you read it, it's so simple. You can read it in 2 to 6 hours and be done with the book. But in this, there's an arc. There are different characters. There are themes. And I remember he mentioned that one of the themes of that book in particular is learning to find the strength and courage to face the scary things. Because sometimes things in life are scary and you don't know exactly what to do to deal with that. But that doesn't mean that you don't have to deal with it. And
Right.
that's a very powerful theme. And so just getting your ideas onto paper, you can worry about organizing them afterwards. The third thing I would recommend that you do, now that you know exactly who you're writing to and why you're writing it for them, you've got your ideas on paper. You got really two options. You can try to start writing, or you can find a mentor. You can find someone who's experienced in writing what you want to write to help you put it all together. And even though I'm a publishing professional and would love to gain new clients, I'll never discourage someone from trying to do this creative thing on their own. I would be dishonest. It would be dishonest of me to say that every great writer has a mentor. Everyone who writes books gets help somewhere. You can tell your story. And if you choose to go that route and do it on your own first, definitely hire an editor and some beta readers and get some people on board to give you that outside perspective. But the other path would be to get the help on the front side so that you craft a book that is in line with what you want to do. And it can save you a lot of time doing it that way. Depending on who you hire, it could be more expensive than an editor or than someone who's strictly an editor. But the payout on the flip side can be that much higher because a lot of times once you put your heart into something so passionately, a lot of authors struggle with receiving that feedback, especially if it's critical. You might write what you think is a great novel, and everyone else is like, it could use this. It's not so bad, but you could probably change some directions here, or this character. I'm being nice. A lot of readers are like, I don't like your character. You're just boring. This story doesn't make sense. Where am I even? Like, readers are rude. I'm sorry.
You'll put
But
your stuff on Reddit right away.
exactly. And having a mentor or a coach who's been there and who does this can help you feel like you're not doing it alone and avoid some of that. You're always going to have some criticism and some critique, but you'll at least know that it wasn't just you or you just failed because you just did it on your own. And yeah, there's a lot of support there.
So what's one of the most interesting stories you could tell us with one of your clients?
Interesting stories with one of my clients. Gosh. Well, what sort of story? Well, give me a little bit more context if you don't mind.
Well, let's say because we've done children's books, let's say one of your tell us an interesting story about writing a children's book.
Honestly, I am not a children's book author. I am an author for adults. I mainly write nonfiction, but I have also done, or rather, let me rephrase that. My books that are published are nonfiction. By trade and experience, I am a fiction writer. Um, that being said, I don't work a ton with children's authors. I do have a children's book under my belt that I've helped an author to uh, package together. Gosh, but I also know a couple of different children's authors. I don't necessarily have any stories per se, but I could offer some advice if you want, at least in terms of children's other books. I got stories.
Well, tell us one of your favorite stories that you've written thus far, just like an excerpt of any of your books.
Got it. Got it. Well, the book that kicked it off for me in terms of publishing is this one here, Facing Racism. And my favorite story in this book actually comes from chapter 10. It's on courageous conversations. And in the story, I share an experience I had with former employee who was going through some stuff at home, and that resulted in him having some really bad BO at work. And
I was well, let me.
it sucked. It really sucked having to have this sort of conversation. But it was kind of funny because I'm like, here I am walking through the store. I was in my management career at the time, doing a tour, just making sure that we were ready for the evening. I was on the closing shift at the time. And I get a call over the walkie-talkie. Assistant manager Andre, can you meet me? Can I meet you somewhere? I'm like, yeah, I'm out by Garden Center. You want to meet me? I'm on a tour. Like, yeah, I'll be right there. And one of the front end manager comes to me and says, we need to have a talk about this person. I was like, what happened? Like, I don't think I can really work with him. I'm like, why not? Did he say something? Did he do something? Actually, like, no, it's embarrassing to say. I'm like, what? What is it? Spit it out. I got 280 something square feet to walk through, 280,000 square feet to walk through. And you want to tell me you don't know what you want to talk to me about? She's like, okay, okay, okay. He just smells really, really bad. It's like I can smell it and I can't be in the same room. And if I can smell it, I know our customers can. Like, you want to send him home? I'm like, absolutely not. I can't afford to send anybody home right now, but I will have a conversation. In the meantime, you stay here and I'll talk. And so I go out and talk to this young guy, and she was right. It was bad. It was bad. And we had to make some tough choices, and we had to have some conversation around what was actually going on, what was needed. But the reason I shared this story in my book was, number one, sometimes conversations will be uncomfortable. Sometimes you'll be put in a situation where you are 100% out of your comfort zone. Imagine me, a grown man, having to tell another grown man, bro, you stink. That's not a comfy conversation, especially at work, in the workplace. But then also wanting to be conscientious of his emotional well-being and his sense of pride. He could have really just not come to work if he chose to, but he had the dedication and willingness to show up. And so I had to have the courage to show up and meet him respectfully and confidently, and also with the clarity of what the store needed. If you've got BO that was like this, then most certainly, customers are going to notice that, and that does not feel good. I once got a complaint from a customer at a different store about a different associate who the customer said, you got a cashier over here who smells so bad, I can smell him from all the way over here. And it was true. We ended up having to put him outside as a people greeter in Garden Center just to keep
Oh
them
man.
customers. But getting back to this main story, the other reason I shared it is because it demonstrated an opportunity for me to listen. I could have said, hey, bro, what's going on here? You smell really bad. Do you need to go get some deodorant? All kinds of really disrespectful sort of things that would make someone feel really bad about themselves. Instead, I had to say, hey, it's been brought to my attention this, what's going on? And he says to me, I know. I have been having some trouble at home. This broke, and this broke, and I haven't been able to wash clothes in almost a week. But I'm going to my parents' house this weekend, and that'll really help. And without airing all the dirty laundry, literally, I'm sorry. um, it was
But
really
not intended.
it was a profound experience for me to be able to employ active listening and recognize where we were. We couldn't fully leave the environment. We had to find a space that was safe and felt comfortable. We had to have some rapport. Had to make sure that he felt safe talking to me about it. And had it been a female associate, I would not have been able to have that conversation, not just out of discomfort, but out of respect for her. I would have had to find someone else to go in and have that conversation. So there was a lot of moving pieces, and when it comes to conversations around race and racial justice and social justice in general, it can be really uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have the conversations. What we need are better communication skills. So that's a story that really stuck out to me, that I feel passionate about. because when you meet people, people are good. They have good intentions most of the time. And, you know, a lot of our problems would be solved if we listened twice as much as we speak.
Speaking of listening and telling stories, more so specifically, um, while you're listening, I guess in a sense. But what would be the most effective ways that you could deliver your story so that a person could listen? Can you give me three parts for that?
Absolutely. So, number one, understand the reason you're telling the story. There's always a so what. Your reader wants to know why they're getting the story, especially if you're in the nonfiction realm. You know, I mentioned in my other book, Write Your Book in No Time, the fiction reader wants a story for entertainment, and hopefully you can deliver a message that teaches them something. In nonfiction, it's the other way around. Your goal is to teach something, but you want to do so in a way that is engaging and inspiring and draws from relatable experience. So, number one, understand why you're telling that particular story. Number two, in the nonfiction realm, storytelling is really built on reflection and pacing. You could write a chapter that's all story, and then at the end, give your reflection on it in one paragraph. I would not recommend it that way. If you got a longer story, you want to kind of checkerboard it and start with some story and then interject some thoughts. You have to realize that you're not just telling a story, but you're replaying it. You're doing the play by play. Like if you were watching sports, you've got the sports commentators. You want to give some of that as the story's playing out. You can tell the story, but interject and anchor your reader, give them the context, and really start to interject your reflection both in the moment as well as what it means to you now. I told a story in Facing Racism about a point where some of my former classmates thought that they legitimately were having a conversation around me about whether or not I was gay or whether or not I just wasn't into Black girls, because at the time I was single and they'd never seen me with a girl.
Wow.
And they were like, no, you can't say that around Dre. He's not gay. And not that there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. It was just the conversation at the time. You know, this isn't that. And someone says, he's not really into Black girls. And at this point, as I'm narrating the story, I interject, really? As if I like, what? How could they possibly think this? And then I continue telling the story. And then after the story, I elaborate more on what it means, what it meant in context then, and what it means in context now, in terms of what I'm talking about in the chapter. So really, that pacing, and I think that might be two and a half. I'd say if there were a third point, don't be afraid to get real. Be honest. Don't pull your punches. If you've got a vulnerable story and it matters, your readers will thank you for being honest and for showing up, because chances are they've got a similar experience, but they haven't had the opportunity or worked up the courage yet to share that. So don't be afraid to dig deep and show your emotions as needed. If you're telling a story, for example, like in this example, you know, I was both confused and angered, and I was like, really, y'all, can you be any more stupid? And it was funny, but also you get a bit of sense of my personality through that.
Hey, well, I've known you for some time now, so I'm like, oh yeah. You should have. I don't know why you didn't pull out the hand, man. Just what? No.
I do not endorse violence in my books. Maybe in the locker room, but in the book.
Non-violent books only.
Thank you. Back to my Zen.
Oh man, this is always great talking with you on this stuff for sure.
I told you it was gonna be a fun call.
Yeah. So I was like, what that means? I was like, what else did I forgot to ask? What doing your life experiences through the books and growing to learn yourself and becoming this multi author and publisher writer, and I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting some titles on here. What's the top 3 lessons that you learned throughout this entire process that you'd like to pass on to others who are getting started out, that want to start doing a book, that want to be where you're at? What we'll get 2 pieces of advice. We'll do the 3. No, I like a 3. Let's do 3. It's like we'll do
brief.
the.
I'll be brief. Point number 1: learn as much as you can. Doesn't matter if you're just writing for your own benefit or if you want to make a serious career out of writing. Never stop learning. There are so many books out there, so many more even than when I started. And there were already stuff out there, already books out there, but learn as much as possible. Also, don't give up. There are a lot of people out there who will tell you there's no money in writing. Not true, I found. There are a lot of people who tell you there's no money in publishing, editing. Not true. There are a lot of people who will tell you that there's no money for you specifically because you're not good enough. Also not true. Writing is a skill. Communication is a skill, and you can learn it. And so in order to learn it, that brings me to point number 3, read and read widely. Of course, read what you intend to write, a lot of it, but read outside of that. And this is important. If you want to write fantasy, let's say you want to write urban fantasy, like the Harry Potter books, they're kind of urban fantasy in some aspects, or even Twilight. It's essentially the real world interposed with kind of some paranormal there. Let's say that's what you want to write, and that's all you read. Are you ever going to add anything unique or new or fresh? Probably not. You can. There's always something unique that each author brings to it, but you're relying heavily on the same tropes, the same pacing, the same plot lines as what you've already read. And if you read widely outside of this, you can interject some other elements. A good paranormal romance will always have a touch of mystery. A good mystery novel may have a hint of romance and scandal. You can always cross genres, and the more that you read, the more your author toolbox grows. So yes, keep learning, don't give up, and read widely.
All right. I love those pieces. If you're watching this live right now, you're in for a treat tonight. You're in for a treat tonight. For the sake of time and things as well, Andrae, if you could just let us know in the comments or back on the live or if someone wants to work with you to write a book, to go ahead and get started with their book, whatever that may look like, where can they contact and reach you at?
Absolutely. So you can find me right here on Facebook on my main profile. I'm not sure what the link to that actually looks like, but I will certainly make a comment. You can just click on my profile picture. Right here is the easiest way. If you are on Instagram more often, author.Andrae Smith, that's Andrae, you'll find me there as well. Those are the 2 predominant ways. And in terms of email and all of that, just message me on Facebook or Instagram and I'll get you all squared away. We could talk about what type of book you want to write, why you want to write it, when you want to write it, all the good details.
That's great. See, all the parts right down on the bottom. And later on, when we come back to the live, or when I repost this a little bit later on in the week as well, to my Parent to Thrive page, as well as the group, as well as my other socials, you'll be seeing that on there, as well as you'll probably be seeing on the Apple Store, some of the other ones too. I forgot which parts, but you'll be seeing all of those as well. This is my first episode for Market Trade Show, and Andrae, it was such a pleasure having you on it as well. If for my audience you'd like to be on the show where we can make impacts and your life and other people's lives and you'd like to be a part of the show, definitely comment below. Me too. And let's get in contact and get a message going, and we'll go ahead and have a different conversation then. And for those that are out there that want to tell your story better, that want to make an impact, that wants books, that wants to learn more, that wants to consolidate your life and do something shorter with pieces of paper, which is why you read books. If you can look at my story, that's why. And you learn a lot.
They have been shown to make you smarter in so many ways. I have a link. I'll probably drop it in the comments below as well. I did a whole presentation just recently for it, and it's shown that it'll help make you smarter, both in terms of emotional intelligence as well as vocabulary and neural pathways. It's been shown through MRI scans that people who read books form new neural pathways in the 10 minutes before, during, and up to 30 minutes and beyond after reading. So you can really physically make your brain smarter just by reading anything.
Hear that? Anything. That includes comic books. I'm just kidding. You can probably list some stuff from there too.
100%. Well, thank you for having me on, Tony. I do appreciate you. I really do.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you too, Andre. So again, thank you all that are watching for the live tonight. And again, if you got a lot of value, comment below as well. You got the value, what your biggest takeaway was. And as always, keep moving up with your intentions out. My name's Tony. You all stay blessed and take care.